How alive are y'all feeling?
I climbed out of my burrow because I thought it was spring, and then I was frozen, and I have gone back in for apparently 6 more weeks of winter yet again. I'm so tired. I would like for 70 degrees for the rest of time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I concur. I'm ready for warm weather. I just booked my first mini vacation in a long ass time, so I'm excited about that.
Anything you want to share with the class?
I'm just going to Florida.
Nice. That should
hit
be
up
very
Disney
lovely.
and the beaches. So
hell yeah.
Yeah.
I honest to goodness thought that snowstorm we had, oh gosh, now it was what, like a week and a half ago? I thought that was final winter. I thought that was like, all right, here it is, the last hurrah.
I saw snow on Sunday.
I know.
What?
Well, on Saturday, I got sleeted on twice on
Rude.
Saturday. Very just upsetting across the board.
This is unacceptable nature behavior. Where do I send a letter? Dear Environmental Protection Agency, I don't feel very protected by the environment.
I'd like to lodge a complaint. Can I ask to see their manager?
Where's nature's manager?
They have one of those in our current book that we're currently working on reading. Sort of. Ish.
Yeah.
Hi, Marion.
My door is open. I'm going to go shut that.
Okay.
But what about cats? What if we want cats?
He's, I'm sure, going to start meowing at the door anytime now.
I was supposed to guest tonight. Hey.
Oof. Ugh.
Oh my goodness.
Hello.
Oh, look at her. Majestic.
So precious.
She's perfect. She's a perfect baby.
Oh my god.
She's so sweet.
Oh. She's so patient.
She really is. She's so nice.
I suspect Marl will guest at some point, but right now she's very busy staring out the window.
It's important business. Hi, Moki. Hello. Yes, this is happy.
So sweet.
Yes. She is a lesson in manifesting, just like this book. How's that for a segue?
Hell yes. So real quick, I'm gonna say right at the top, I know last month was gonna be Goblin Emperor. We were going to talk about it then, and then the night of stream, we got some really bad news about one of the members of the community, and that member of the community shortly thereafter passed away. So we kept saying to ourselves, well, we should probably figure out when we're going to do our next book club. And as things so often do, we got busy with other things. I will say this past weekend, we had a live stream, a charity live stream that we did for 12 hours and raised a little over $4,000 for Craig, Sonata's surviving husband. And that money, of course, is going towards covering the various expenses that come with losing a loved one. So if you all will join me in just a moment of silence, think about whatever you may like, but I personally will be thinking about Craig and thinking about my loved ones. It is hard to be really somber and sad when when Happy has that look on her face. Like, that is pure feline bliss is what that is.
She is truly a therapy cat. Like, she's just a big puddle
That is
of
the vibe she gives off.
she's just a puddle of nice. Very good. She's so chill. I'm not even holding her now, and she's just here. Yes, she's a good baby.
So, with everything being as busy as it's been lately, Sharon and I have not managed to finish Project Hail Mary, which we were like,
Only half.
I think I was going to say, I think you're a little bit further even than I am. So we figured, let's just bump everything back a month. We'll do Goblin Emperor this month. We'll talk about Project Hail Mary next month, and we'll start a book club poll for what our book after Project Hail Mary is going to be, so that we're not making that decision like we would have been tonight, so that we can order books and hopefully have them before we're already ready for the next book club.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, everything back a month. So to start things off, let's get into Goblin Emperor. First and foremost, how did you all feel overall about the book?
I really liked it a lot. It had complicated names, but I really liked it a lot.
I liked it okay. I think I loved the beginning, and then it kind of like lost me a bit, and then it finished, I thought, pretty well. Overall, positive.
I had not considered how much I love political intrigue books until we read this one. And I was like, dang, like I am really vibing with a lot of how this book is built. And I think it was Kyle who pointed out, was like, weren't you the one who was a big fan of Robin Hobb's Assassin's Apprentice? Have you considered perhaps that you might just be a fiend for political intrigue books, just generally speaking? And I was like, I hadn't thought I would be, but maybe I am.
I just have to share this right now. I'm so sorry.
Just resting chin.
She's just resting her head on the table. It's such a weirdo.
Cute.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I definitely was like, oh, court intrigue, political intrigue. I can take it or leave it. Political intrigue and heist stories are the same way for me. It's like a 50-50, like flip a coin as to whether I'll be like, yeah, or ugh, not this again. And so I was a little like, ugh, not this again. starting off, and then it just kept surprising me. And something I think that Lauren said when we were chatting one day, you said it was like, this is more of a character study. I was like, yeah, it kind of is. And I liked being surprised.
Nice. I'm also a fiend for political intrigue. Fiend, it's a good word. Both of you I don't have a cat. That's not fair.
I don't anymore either. She's departed. She's gone down here now. There she is.
Cute. Yeah. Definitely, I think a character study. I feel like I, over the course of the book, like really got to know Maya. Got like all about him. Hopes, fears, insecurities, like watch him gain confidence. Like it was really I felt like pretty intimate, you know, in a way that, you know, sometimes you don't get as, you know, it's more what in books that are more like plot focused, where there's intrigue and explosions and betrayal and all of those things that are more action focused. It couldn't be more different than Hail Mary. But yeah.
I agree. Like Hail Mary, even just the first little bit of it is very clearly a lot more about the mission than the man. And Goblin Emperor is just polar opposite. It is all Maya all the time, and like the things happening in the kingdom around him are just like they're there, but they're not the focal point at any point.
Which is really funny because I like comparing our two narrator sources here, and Maya is a pretty selfless dude in a lot of ways, and I know that I am in the extreme minority here, but Ryland Grace annoys the crap out of me. Oh my god.
I could see how that'd be the case.
I feel like Maya shows and doesn't tell, and Ryland Grace is all telling. And but it is really funny that that's how it like works out, even though this is definitely much more like focused specifically on like Maya's movements throughout like scenario to scenario, and then this is more like plot, action, things are happening, we're trying to figure out what's going on. It's interesting that it works out that way.
Yeah. Even like in the Goblin Emperor, like the ones you think are bad. Like there's like, you know, you're not like, I don't know. I didn't feel like totally surprised by, you know, the betrayals. It's like, oh, that lady that gave him the death glare and said she hated his guts. Cool. So like the plot was not where like the investment came from, but like Maya's experience of those events is where you got like the emotion, I think. Yeah, like that the coup, I think, was one of my favorite moments. I don't know. It was just like so incompetently done and in a way that felt like almost realistic.
I feel like a lot of the interactions between characters just felt very realistic because, you know, like that's one thing that I don't find very realistic about most like court intrigue things is like, oh, the smiley sweet person is secretly like there's a vibe. People give off a vibe. You know, you work with humans. Like and I think Maya is sensitive to vibes. And so, you know, like there is sort of like the low level pressure and tension of just like, these people here don't like me, they don't really accept me, like, am I doing a good enough job? I don't know. I hope that they're cool with it. Up, cool, all right, well, this is the best that I can do in this situation. I hope it works. It's just, it seems like a series of situations where Maya does his best.
Yeah.
And just is like, this is all I can do. And because he does seem to be a pretty selfless character in a lot of ways, it's very nice to have a book where that works out for him.
Yeah, he was like, it's endearing to see good people doing their best. And like, yeah.
And he still doesn't win them all either, so I feel like that's realistic, because, you know, he's never able to make it right with like the folks in the coup. He's never able to make it right with Chavar, like the I don't remember his title now, or like his position. His older sister, who he like wants to be friends with, kind of like, they never really get close. He's just like, I'm gonna not be a shitty relative. And like that does sort of pay off in other ways, but, you know, like the thing that he kind of hopes happens, like I remember there's one part where he's like, oh, I kind of thought that maybe she would like come visit me or say hi or something, but she never did. But his sister is friends with his fiance, and then his fiance sort of gets to know him through his actions, and then that turns out to be just a nice little situation.
The letter where she was like, I'd duel her or like stab her or something, I was like, yes.
Yeah. So good. Ugh.
So good.
I really, really enjoyed how often Maya would want something and would try to maneuver in that direction, and would like sort of succeed in doing what he wanted to do, but fail in getting what he wanted to get out of that person. But because he did that, someone else is like, I see you. So instead of like his older sister becoming his friend, it's his aunt who ends up being like, well, you brought me out of exile. You're clearly a decent person because, you know, you didn't make her like marry just so that you could get political clout. Yeah. Let's hang out. I can give you my guidance if you want. And it's like, yay! He still gets his friend, just not in the way he thought he would.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how he gets like his meditation space in the chapel later. It's just like he's kind to a lot of people around him, and so like other people who might not speak up are just like, by the way, are you interested in this thing maybe? And he's like, oh my goodness, yes. Wow.
Yeah, his like never being alone, hell, that like, oh. And like when you like historically, like you think of the realities of court, very much true. Like, you didn't really get to be alone, and yeah, just like constantly somebody by you. It reminded me also a bit of Priory of the Orange Tree. There's always like a lady in waiting, like somewhere.
The lady
of the bedchamber or something.
Yeah.
Just the idea of never having alone time sounds awful.
Yeah.
and the like couple of moments where he sort of throws in and makes the choice of like, well, I have this person here, so I guess I'm gonna just trust them with everything. Like he does it with like Chevet, like who he makes sort of be his. I can't remember any of the job titles at
like
all.
his like secretary slash
do all the things guy, yeah. And then also with his how do we say no
bodyguards?
His bodyguard.
The magic one and the not magic one?
Yeah, and then he has them like go with him on his vigil, and it was just like, oh, that's so nice. And the whole time I was just like, I hope that this all works out.
Yeah.
That like the fact that I was like, I hope this all works out the whole time, and then like it maybe didn't work out the way that he wanted it to, but it does work out, like you were saying, Josh. It was just like, it was a nice breath of fresh air.
Knowing full well that Chevet had served under Lord Chavar, I was like, you fool! Why would you bring your greatest enemy's servant into your own house so closely?
And if this was a different book, that would have obviously, but it wasn't.
There's a part of me that kind of imagines like Chavar is thinking that Chevet will be a good, like, oh, I'll maneuver this piece. And Chevet is kind of uncommitted either way. And then seeing up close what a kind and benevolent leader Maya is like, no, I must protect the cinnamon roll. Yeah. I must show him the way.
Cinnamon roll. Yes.
Speaking of not nice people, what did you think of Maya's relationship with Cytheris? And like how that like shaped him? I have two quotes about it, kind of, that that like really stood out to me. The first one is from like one of the first couple of chapters, where Maya doesn't allow Cytheris to view the sunset in like the airship, and it's I must not acquire a taste for this pleasure. It was heady, but he knew it was also poison. And I think that's the moment where I like first connected with his character, like took note that, but I don't know. I feel like it really defined my first impression of his character. And then sort of later, I guess kind of along the lines of the same cruelty, he says, we consider it cruel, Maya said, and we do not think cruelty is ever just. I think it's when I didn't write down the context for that. It was just another quote about cruelty. But anyway, Cytheris, thoughts?
Can I take and expand the question?
Yeah.
I find his relationships with men versus his relationships with women very interesting, because he has this, he has a problematic relationship with his father, with his cousin, with these like male role model figures, but he listens to and seeks advice from like female role models, like his mother, who had like the strongest hand in his upbringing to a point, and then his almost exiled but not really aunt. Is that what she was? I can't remember.
Sure.
She was either an aunt or a previous wife. I can't remember which.
Yeah. Step mom, maybe.
I think he might call her aunt, but I think
Yeah.
I think he calls her
The
aunt.
ex-queen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her, and then his sister and his fiance, and like the respect for his mother and his mother's practices are just like a very nice way to see his character shaped.
Yeah, I have a bullet that says race, gender, and being other. And I think like part of why Maya has those relationships with the female characters that do feel pretty different than both the way that other men in the world interact with women and the way he interacts with other men. And I think part of that is like his relationship with his mother, which is, he brings up like throughout the book. But also I think it's his experience with being other, being powerless, being talked down to, and like all of these ways in which he's not treated like an equal or like a man in I don't know, his teenagehood, young adulthood. So I think he relates to like women in, because of that maybe, or influenced by that. That's kind of the impression I got.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a totally valid read, because it feels a lot like, not like, yes, the respect for his mother, and yes, the respect for her beliefs, but also because of who he is as a person, he's more invested in people for people's sake than their role or their title or any of that, to the point where his bodyguards have to be like, look, man, like, I understand, but we can't be your friends. We're here to protect you. And if we're your friends, that makes us worse at that. And it's like, oh my God.
That part broke my heart.
He just wanted friends so bad. And they were friends. But
they were friends, really. But also, like, there is kind of that divide. It's like, I don't know, I've had jobs where I get along really well with one of my managers, but we can't really be like friends, because there needs to be that little bit of power divide for me to be able to do stuff well for them and for them to be able to direct me well. So I don't know. I thought that was particularly interesting. I think Sethris in particular, I appreciated that Maya was basically like trying as hard as he could to be as merciful as he could be. And then Sethris is like, oh, perfect, an opportunity for me to push. And Maya's like, you go fuck yourself. And it's like, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
It was a very polite go fuck yourself. It was a very like, thank you for that information. No. Goodbye.
Well, I'm specifically talking about the scene where Sethris is like, this isn't a role I wish for. And Maya rips like the sleeve of his robe up and is like, well, I didn't wish for this. Everybody's like, he did that? Oh my God. And one of Maya's bodyguards is like, I'll kill him on the spot. Just give me 1 minute with him. He'll be so dead. And it's like, I really enjoyed how it was a example of someone who may not have been a bad person until they were put into bad circumstances. And it's impossible to say whether, if he had stayed at court and been close to his wife the whole time and all of that, whether Sethris would have become an alcoholic, a abuser, all of these things, or if all of that is a side effect of being removed from society, being made other, and being treated lesser.
They are kind of good, like, opposites in that way of like Maya gets like, you know, as young adults, Setharus is exiled and Maya is, you know, thrust into court, and Maya is a nice cinnamon roll and Setharus turns, you know, possibly even more bitter and rude. We don't really know what he was like other than, you know, like what they say, like that he had an eye on that job that Chevar had, and was maybe a little grabby hands.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was really interesting and well done to watch, like, Maya sort of, you know, he's like in this sort of abusive situation, and then he, like, the tables overnight get flipped and he has all this power, and how, you know, he doesn't feel like, you know, in a lot of ways he doesn't feel like he has that power, and then he slowly grows in confidence and he's able to like establish some boundaries and try and like push back but never be cruel, which I feel like a lot of times what we see is like a revenge fantasy. It's like the abuser, like the whatever abused person, like gets power and then like murders the abuser and is like ha ha ha. And I mean, those are great and cathartic and all of that, but it leads to, like, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's the pacifist in me, but it just feels like anyone's going to be violent with power, right? You're Sharon, this is an aside that probably only you will get, but the book The Power,
yep, I was just thinking of it. I was like,
it reminded me of that. It's just like, well, if women had the bigger physical strength, they would be terrible just like men. And it just made me so angry.
It made me very mad too.
And so it was refreshing to not see that take.
I really, really, really liked how, and this is going back to the quote you read, Maya recognizes that vengeance would be very sweet and very delicious, but also would corrupt him as a person. And so like he's like, I will enjoy slighting my cousin ever so much, but then I have to push it away. I have to put everything in moderation, including vengeance.
I love an intentional, reflective main character. Just so nice. Just like he's trying to be a better person, and you get to see him think it through and try, and it's so nice.
I have something I would like to float by the group at large, because when it occurred to me, I was like, so Maya has this like voice in his head that's all about like how to be a good emperor, right? And it comes to him at first, he's like, it's Setharus's voice, basically, just like declaring things to me and saying crap. And then after a while, he's not really affiliating it with Setharus anymore. He's hearing it like it's too soft to be Setharus. My head canon on this is that voice is the spirit of his deceased father trying to guide him. Because it starts out being so mean and so rude and so terrible, and then actually giving occasional good advice mixed in. And then as the book progresses, the voice softens significantly. And I think it's clear to Maya that that's not like his own internal dialogue, but almost like something beyond him.
That's interesting. That's not the take I took. I took it as like that like voice of self-doubt that tells you that you're shitty and you're not going to amount to anything and blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, it slowly starts to like go away and, you know, lose a little bit of its power as he sort of like distances himself from Sethrus and like gains, I don't know, confidence and stuff.
Yeah.
That's just how I took it.
Yeah, I think I took it similarly. Of it was just more of him getting away from the influence of like that kind of attitude and listening more to his own nature. Because I don't think that the way that they've talked about like his father, I don't think that they would vibe in their rulership tendencies either, but it seemed like the more that Maya was able to kind of do what he like the thing with the bridge, you know, he was interested in the bridge situation from like early on in the book, like it's mentioned, and he's like, what? And then it, you know, comes up several other times, and you know, then in the end, like he's the bridge builder, and it's like, oh, yay. But that's, you know, stuff that he sort of eventually something that you said earlier about like sort of setting boundaries early on. It did feel like when he became emperor, like he starts out in like that peacock room and then kind of like puts out like little feelers of like, what am I doing here? And it felt like he just immediately like imprinted on Chevet, the guy who just happened to give him the message, and he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna keep you. And then he had to have the bodyguards, and he's like, okay, okay. And it just felt like a sort of a series of like expanding and getting a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more comfortable and letting a few more people in. And I think eventually he reaches a point where he's like able to trust the voice that says like, keep this one. Which is just, it's nice.
I kind of in that vein though, his father was also very interested in and dogged about the bridge project, which I remember when that came up, like I felt like I was just as surprised as Maya was that like his father was also trying to shake up the routine a little bit.
I don't remember that part. I kind of remember that part, but I don't really remember that part. I remember there being something where it was like, oh, surprisingly, he kind of agrees on a policy with his father. But yeah, that's an interesting note.
It was the bridge, and I remember it specifically because one of the other lords around the table is like, you know, it's not terribly surprising that you'd be all about this. After all, your father was all about this too. And Maya is like, oh no, I almost want to hate it now. I can't. I like it too much.
Speaking of bridges, what did we all think of the bridge building theme? I mean, it's pretty like explicit. Like he's building this physical bridge. He's like goblin and elven. He's like, you know, building the bridge to like, you know, between rich and poor. Like the whole thing is all about reaching out and establishing connection. And I thought that was very nicely done. I feel like I could write a 10th grade English paper on it. It was, yeah, I thought it was good, especially his like little epithet. What do you call it when like a ruler has a name, like the just, the cruel?
Oh,
yeah.
Is it an epithet, or is that? I could just Google it.
I don't remember. Epithet, I thought was something to do with like what goes on your gravestone sort of deal, but I'm not even sure of that.
I don't know. My brain cells have all been.
Epithet, an adjective or descriptive phrase expressing a quality, character. a quality characteristic of the person or thing mentioned.
Oh, all right. You were on it to begin with and should never have doubted yourself, clearly.
Example, in the name Alexander the Great is an epithet.
Mm-hmm. The bridge builder.
I really, really liked the theme of bridge building, not just from it's a different direction to take political intrigue book, but also from a direction of, I don't know, like where we're at right now. A lot of us have spent a lot of time in our houses, mostly alone, so that we're not spreading a virulent disease. And being able to reestablish those connections and build those bridges, and some of the bridge building we did in the past being our connection to the outside world during everything, I don't know, it seemed like the exact right time to be reading this book.
Yeah. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I think that this is one that I am pretty sure I will reread sooner rather than later. Like, there are many books that we have read in book club where I'm like, oh, I'm going to read that again at some point. But like this one, I'm like, oh, I know I'm going to read this one again because it's nice. And it's not simple nice. It, it does have a lot of complexity to it.
It was making my brain work.
Yeah, the name situation was a lot of exercise, but
it
but
did,
yeah,
like
what you said about it being like intimate, like that was nice.
Yeah, I liked the take on world building with all of the naming and the culture and the titles and all of that. It was kind of like I had to look up the TV trope for this, but I think it's an elevator episode, or where like everything happens in like one like room during the episode, and that's kind of what this felt like. Like we didn't go outside of the palace at all, really, except for maybe the trip to the graveyard or like temple thing.
Yeah, he went to like a church thing.
I feel like a decent amount about the culture and the ways people interact and all of that. Anyway, it's just a different take on world building that I enjoyed.
It's also kind of nice that the audience has to get spoon-fed a little bit of this kind of stuff because we don't know anything going in. And it's so easy for an author to do just an exposition dump to be like, here's what you need to know about my world to understand what the hell I'm talking about. I really enjoyed that because Maya knows nothing about ruling. They're like, we're not going to make you worry about like these like fringe situations. We'll handle all that. Don't you worry about that. But then he's like, but I want to worry about that. And so he starts learning about like, oh, these are the trade nations and these are the families that are in charge of them. And here's what you need to know about like this group and their personal interests and why they want a bridge and why these people don't want a bridge. And like at that point, enough about Maya and his immediate surroundings and kind of like the language aspects of the book that you can be like, trade families, interesting.
That reminds me of another thing that I really appreciate about Maya as a character. He knows when he doesn't know a thing and like is able to ask for assistance or seek it out in some way. And so like he is painfully aware of how little he knows and is like, I basically need like a tutor in how the world works. Like, how does all of this, like my education, not great, very patchy, mostly led by a very like angry, sarcastic, abusive man. I need help. And yeah. Another nice comparison to our current main character who does not ask for help ever and apparently knows how to do everything naturally. A Gary Stu. I had to look that up. I was like, what's the male version of a Mary Stu? Because that's what Ryland Grace is. But that's...
I'm so looking forward to talking about Project Hail Mary, like really getting into it.
I have so many thoughts. My poor coworker has been having to endure my thoughts on Project Hail Mary because she's already read it and she really liked it, but she was also like, you have fair points, but I can't say anything because I've read the whole book and you haven't. And I'm like, no. So
I will say for Project Hail Mary, I'm really enjoying in the early sections of the book. Once again, they can't give you all the exposition all at once because it'll be too much. How they're like, I know what we'll do. We have one character in the ship and he knows nothing about anything.
Dungeon crawl.
He's going to have to learn things while he figures out other things. And so you're going to kind of like put the pieces together with him until you're like, he's a space scientist. And then 3 pages later, he's like, I'm a space scientist. And you're like, I knew it.
Yeah, I really liked that like medium of storytelling. And I read another book recently that had kind of that medium of storytelling. Except not really, but it was told with like these like alternating flashback periods. So you like see the characters interact as they are now, and then you see them flash back to like being teens, and you're like, everything makes sense. That thing that happened, 4 chapters ago. Now I know why he said that. And it's just I don't know, it feels really gratifying to like watch it happen, like figure it out. If I will say, if anyone hasn't picked up a copy or read it yet or anything, I listened to the audiobook and it was so good. It's the best best narrated audiobook I've ever listened to. And I don't even like audiobooks. My partner just had already listened to it, so it was already in his Audible library. So good. Highly recommend it.
My manager saw that I had a copy on hand because I was reading it at lunch, and he was like, "Oh, let me know what you think when you finish." I was like, "You've already read it," and he's like, "Oh yeah, loved it. Way more than The Martian. Way more than The Martian, easily." And he was like, "I listened to the audiobook, and it's top tier audiobook." And he listens to a lot of audiobooks, so yeah. High praise for audiobooks all around.
I want to like this book more than I do because I do really like the plot. I like what's going on, but as a non New York Times best-selling author, I'll wait until I'm done with it to tell everyone what's wrong with it and how it could be better.
I mean, fair. I do find it really interesting that our group, we tend to be so character focused. Like, I think Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, as I recall, drove all of us a little bit crazy just because Arthur Dent is such a like
stick in the mud.
Like, come on, man. You're on a galactic space adventure. Get out there and love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All it takes is one character that really drives us nuts to really sour us on a book.
Yeah, weirdly, like Ryland Grace is like almost the opposite of Arthur Dent because he's like, oh, how exciting, science. I'm so good at all of it with my middle school science teacher career. No offense to middle school science teachers. We love you. But you are not going to be hand chosen by the woman running the operation and then carried around to literally every single secret meeting that there could possibly be. No, that is not how any of this works. I cannot suspend my disbelief.
You're killing me. You're killing me. I finished the book. Like, I don't know, 40 minutes before stream. And I can't say anything, but I look forward to next time, which will be what date?
That will be the last Tuesday in April, which is, I'm definitely not pulling up a calendar right now, is the 26th. So the 26th of April will be the next book club when we talk about Project Hail Mary, which I have gotten the name right the last 3 times I've said. I'm going to celebrate that internally. Goblin Emperor, though, final thoughts. This easily is in my top 5 Goblins and Growlers book club books, which is saying something because we have read some real gems. I don't think I can put it above 6 of Crows or Gideon the Ninth. I don't think I can. I'm
Gideon
just
the
too.
Ninth, just, you know.
I'm too in love with both of those books. I can't. But I could potentially see it taking that number 3 slot. I'd have to think about it some, but it's up there.
Thank you, Marion. I'm gonna have so many thoughts when I finish. and my coworker was like, "Well, you know."
Oh my God!
There's
yes.
Stuff that happens, so I don't want to say too much. And I'm like, ah.
Yes, literally every chapter is like a twist and a turn, and I can't say anything. Anyway,
I will say, I'm gonna call this shot right now. I a little bit get the feeling that Ryland Grace is an unreliable narrator. Just,
I mean, he has amnesia.
well, yes, but also,
yeah.
Are we?
No, he was a disgraced academic who gets kicked out for his crazy ideas.
Which is also not right, because all he did was say, hey, you know what? Maybe there's some life forms that don't use water. And everyone was like, preposterous, sir. How dare you? Uh-oh.
But he was like a dick about it.
All academics are dicks, though. Like, you have to be in academia. Like, and the fact that he runs into some other scientist later and they're like, oh, you're the one who stuck a big middle finger in the face of the scientific community. It's like, he wrote one paper and then disappeared. Like, she's not gonna know who he is. Like, no. Oh no, Josh is gone.
Shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts on books for the following month? Since there was mention of us doing a poll, maybe? Since Josh is gone, he totally said he would do a poll. He promised all of these things.
I don't have any book recommendations. Do you? Oh, yay, it's Josh.
The Project Hail Mary chat got too intense and my computer crashed.
Oh no.
So did I hear that we're jumping into book recommendations for book poll?
Yes, I was just bringing it up since we had a minute to kill before you came back online.
Totally fair. How about I've heard there's some political intrigue in a little book called A Memory Called Empire, and I'm wondering I'm wondering if maybe we need that in our lives now that I know what my personal tendencies are.
You know, maybe. I think that A Memory Called Empire is my top tier political intrigue.
It's on my list. This is my list of everything I want to read.
Oh
These
my
are all book
gosh.
titles. But yeah, Memory Called Empire. It's right there. Memory Called Empire. Yay.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is too much. I can't.
That's a lot of book recommendations.
Yeah, and most of them aren't like book club books. Most of them aren't like sci-fi or fantasy, which is weird because that's my usual go-to. These are all like I've gotten into nonfiction recently.
Gross.
No, it's like so good. It's so good. Maybe that's why I like this. Maybe that's why I liked this because it's like very well, here's what's going on in this situation. I'm just talking about how I feel about things.
Goblin Emperor is borderline anthropological.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not quite, but it is close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have any recommendations, Lauren? Or
I'm
do you
gonna
need
think
to
about it,
noodle on
but
it?
I will recommend one that I have read. That I've recommended, I think, a few times. It's just never gotten picked. Phoenix Extravagant.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about that.
It's the cover is very pretty. It's fantasy. With a very interesting magic system. It's like an Asian inspired fantasy. There are themes of colonialism, and there are dragons also.
Hell yes.
We all love a dragon. At least I do.
I do.
If you're
I
like,
do
this
enjoy
book
a
has
good
dragons,
dragon.
I'm like easily 20% more likely to read that book. So
I mean, fair. Dragons are really cool.
yeah. I also like. Well, I'll be quiet.
leave a little mystery for everyone.
But I'll give it some thought, and maybe I'll drop another rec into book club chat, a fresh one, maybe one I haven't read, into book club chat, because that's been fun.
We've had a few good things come out of books none of us have read yet.
Like Goblin Emperor.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't Goblin Emperor one of those? And that's like,
and Hail Mary too, Project Hail Mary, because yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Both very worthy reads, despite my disdain for the main character.
Yeah, I mean, even with the main character being a butt, there are at least a few other fringe characters to enjoy.
Mm-hmm. 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 I also just really enjoyed the like situation and general plot of Project Hail Mary, and like I think you said in Discord, Josh, the same thing that I was thinking, like just maybe like 20 or 30 pages into the book, I'm just like, oh, we're just like dungeon crawling here. We're just exploring this map. Where are we? What are we looking at here? What's going on? Oh, we found a thing and it triggered a memory. Now we have new information. Moving on to the next part. Yeah.
Yeah.
A very template for storytelling.
I really enjoyed the sort of action-y, fast-paced, like science-focusedness of Project Hail Mary, because it was very different than everything I had been reading for a while. It was kind of like plodding along, and just kind of like snapped me out of my usual, which was refreshing. But we can talk about that next month.
Indeed.
Tuesday, April 26th.
You got that exactly right. I only just realized that Nightbot is still posting every 10 minutes about the fundraiser stream we did on Saturday. Whoops. My bad, y'all. Marion would like to know if we all read The Martian.
I did not.
No.
I also have not. I haven't even seen the movie.
Same.
I saw the movie and I enjoyed it.
Most of the people that I know who have read both this and The Martian have all said that they like Project Hail Mary better than The Martian. My coworker is one of them. And she would vibe with book club, so I trust her judgment.
I have, however, read Artemis, which doesn't get talked about as much. I mean, it has a female main character, so. But it's about a heist on the moon. Very cool.
What?
Moon heist.
Also by Andy Weir. I thought it was fun. It's not. I don't think I liked it quite as much as Project Hail Mary, but I also listened to it like ages ago. So.
I mean, that might be one to keep in the back pocket for later. I'm trying to think. Oh, go ahead, Sharon. I was just gonna say trying to think of other books to recommend.
I was just gonna say that I'm just going back to Project Hail Mary. We're supposed to be talking about it next. I was just gonna say that I keep comparing it in certain ways back to Be Taught If Fortunate.
Yes, like very similar themes sometimes, though
totally different approaches.
Yes.
You're killing Lauren.
I literally had a discussion because my partner has read both Project Hail Mary and To Be Taught If Fortunate, and we had a good discussion about it.
Oh, yes. Would you like to read these nice reviews from these all-male authors? We've got Brandon, George, Ernest, Tim, and Blake. They all have great things to say. Harumph. Yes.
I will say
Becky Chambers.
I appreciate you calling that out, because I hadn't been thinking about it really at all, because I was like, well, there's only one character here to do things, so of course he has to be good at all the things he's going to do, not thinking at all about the fact that he was part of a team of 3, and theoretically they should have had things they were good at that he is not.
Just read some more.
Yep. Gotta read more. We'll be in Discord chat, hopefully, to relieve some of Lauren's blood pressure that we're like slowly spiking higher and higher as she withholds the spoilers.
Just make liberal use of like the spoiler feature on Discord. Love that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably finish it within the week. I'll probably finish it in the next few days, honestly, because I've gotten to the point where it's picked up where I'm like, well, now even though I'm annoyed, I gotta know what's going on. I really am enjoying it. I promise. I'm just irritated also.
No, I think your criticisms of Ryland are very valid.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm very excited to get into the rest of the book, discuss in Discord, and then come here next month on the 26th and get like really into it, because I think some of our best book club conversations, in my opinion, are the occasions where all of us liked the book, but each of us didn't like a part of the book like a lot. Because it is like those are that's when we get our spiciest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Come with some hot takes.
Heck yeah, I'm about it. Oh no. Oh no. Marion,
Supporting the
no.
library is important. You are doing a wonderful service for your community, and we thank you for that.
Okay. Let's wrap it up for the night so that we can go read more of this book and then get in the Discord. I'm gonna, Lauren, what would you like to plug tonight?
I guess the same thing I always do. I should come up with something different next month. But you can follow me on Instagram at Feminist Reading List if you want to hear more of my thoughts about sci-fi, fantasy, and romance novels.
It's good stuff. Are you still reading a lot of manga as well?
Oh, yeah. I'm always reading manga. I actually just got a Humble bundle. You're like a gamer.
Yes.
Which I had never got before, but a manga publisher, Dansha, which is one of my I have opinions about manga publishers. And so I got their Humble bundle. So hopefully I'll be reading a lot from that. It had like 60 volumes on it.
Wow.
It was something crazy.
For a moment, I thought you were going to say you were getting into light novels, which I was going to be very impressed by, but also like, this is probably inevitable.
Depends on what you define a light novel as. I've been reading some Chinese fantasy.
Ooh. So my understanding of light novels as defined is that they look like video games. They're shaped like video games, but they are books.
Interesting. I always just thought of it as like Japan's word for YA.
Oh, no, it's something fairly specific. One of my favorite anime series came out of light novels. I'll post something in book club chat just as a reference point for everybody out there.
Yeah, I'm totally lost. I'm intrigued. I look forward to education.
It's one of those weird things that as you start like digging deeper into Japanese culture, you're like, oh, what's this? Oh, this is very interesting. Oh, this is a lot.
Dangerous territory.
Very much so. Sharon, what would you like to plug?
Oh no. Well, I know various goblins are working on a lot of various projects, myself included. Nothing exciting to like announce specifically, but I know we're looking forward to having some cool new stuff and hopefully getting to some cons this year. So watch this space, I guess.
I'm excited to get back into cons more.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to plug this week's episode of the Goblins and Growlers podcast. If you have been listening along with our show at all, then you saw our review of The End by Joe Donka and got to experience Brandon and my vast confusion when we could find nothing about this author anywhere on the internet. Like, there's the barest snippets here and there, and we're like, does this guy, like, what did he do? Did he himself get raptured off the planet? Well, Brandon found who he thought the person was and reached out to him over Facebook, and he replied, and he gave us an interview that ran like 2 hours. So we have the full scoop on that episode now, and part 1 is already out. So if you're not already listening to the Goblins and Growlers podcast and you'd like to hear a little something about game design and the trials and tribulations of starting a game design company, go check that out. It's Goblins and Growlers Podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcasts, but most easily found on the goblinsandgrowlers.com website. All right, y'all. I think we're good. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, especially Lauren, for kind of leading the conversation tonight, as I had
your lists. Oh yeah,
very helpful. Very helpful. I had half forgotten so much stuff in the book, and then you'd mention like one thing, and I'm like, all the memories are coming back.
I was messaging Sharon. I was like flipping through like desperately. I was like writing down character names, and then as I was doing that, it was like triggering things, and yeah, it was all last minute.
I mean, even being last minute, super helpful. Thank you so much.
My prep work was all complaints about this guy, so I'll just save those. I'll just save those for next.
Look, we need that too, okay? We need that too. All right. I hope everybody out there has a lovely night. I will be catching up on Project Hail Mary probably in the next couple of weeks, and I will have a book club poll out. I would expect by the end of the week, I think we can get a good few books to vote on. All right. Good talking, y'all. And we'll see you on the 26th. Bye.